rise, and Councilmember Laura Toya will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
You know what? I'm going to do a prayer, Madam Chair.
Okay, then if we could all sit and bow our heads.
Oh, I
You'd
don't.
like to bow your head.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you, Madam President. Father, Mother God, as we come together tonight to make decisions for our great city, let's understand each one of our uniqueness and also make sure that our city stays safe from this horrible virus that's going around. I just had two friends, Father, inflicted with it, one at St. Mary's Hospital. So please, Father, please give us your strength, your guidance as we face the days ahead. Amen.
Thank you, Councilmember Toya.
Thank you.
And welcome to the October 5th study session of the Livonia City Council. This meeting sets the agenda for the 1907th regular meeting, a voting meeting that will take place on Monday, October 19th, 2020. I believe that we have all members of the council with us this evening, and we have a bonus Jolly family member. So a council member in training. Hi, JD. But we have all other members of the council with us. And I would like to inform everyone that we have new data on agenda item number 6, and I will refer to that data specifically when we get to that agenda item. At this time, I go to the council. If anyone has any announcements they would like to make. Council? Councilmember Jolly.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wish my little boy here a happy first day of kindergarten. It was a little late, a little delayed, but he kind of slugged through it, wore his mask all day, and hopefully now he's going to bed. So just want to give him a shout out. Thank you.
All right. Happy first day of kindergarten to the mighty JD. All right. Anyone else? And I guess we should say a happy first day of school to all Livonia school kids who were back in the classroom today. And we wish all of them a great school year and hope that everything goes well. And once again, it will be another memorable year for every kid in school. But good luck to all of our Livonia students, our teachers, and our administrators. All right. Would anyone from the council like to, would anyone from the audience like to address the council on any item not on this evening's agenda? Now is your opportunity to do so. Seeing none, we will proceed with our agenda. This is a study meeting. There will be no votes taken this evening. The council members will, however, offer either one resolution or a combination of resolutions for each item. The resolutions offered may include an approving, denying, or referring resolution to a committee or city department for its report and recommendation. A resolution of no further action may also be offered. There are some items that will simply be received and placed on file for the information of the City Council. Please note that all of the items on tonight's agenda will move on to the regular meeting agenda of Monday, October 19th, where they will officially be voted on. If you would like to participate in any of the agenda items that are taken up this evening, please use the raise your hand button if you're joining us by Zoom, or press *9 if you're joining us by phone. When that item is called, you will be recognized at the appropriate time. Generally, the petitioner, whether that is the city or a private entity, will make the initial presentation, followed by remarks from those on council and those in the audience who wish to speak. When you are called on to speak, please state your name and address for the record so that your remarks may be properly attributed to you in the minutes for the meeting. It will also let council members and those of us who are those joining us by Zoom or phone know who is speaking to them. And I apologize. I understand that there are some issues perhaps with my microphone tonight, so I'm sorry for any technical difficulties that are causing me to be difficult to be heard. And with that, we begin the new business portion of our agenda. Item number 1 is a block party request from Christina Engler to be held on Saturday, October 31st, 2020, from 5 to 9 p.m. on Wisconsin Street between Hubbard and Colorado, with no rain date requested. Is the petitioner with us?
Madam President?
Yes. Councilmember Jolly.
I'm sorry. It does not appear that the petitioner is on the Zoom call here. This is a standard procedure. I'd make a motion to approve. Looks like everything's in order and wish them well.
All right, would you like to put that on the regular agenda?
We can put it on the consent agenda. There are no objections.
Madam
All right.
President,
Vice President Barr.
no objection to consent. This is just a technicality. But in the record, it should probably read between Hubbard and Ohio Street, not Hubbard and Colorado Street. Colorado is a continuation of Wisconsin. And so that's just a technicality. I know where they're wanting to do it, but just want to make sure that was recorded correctly.
Thank you. Mr. Zlinczyk may be contacting you to help with some of the street projects, given your expert knowledge. So don't answer the phone when he called. Anyway, all right, we'll put that on the consent agenda, and thank you, Vice President Barr, for the correction. Item 2 is an award. I'm sorry.
I need to get it right for the resolution, though. That was Ohio and not Colorado.
Correct.
Yeah, it's Wisconsin Street between Hubbard and Ohio. If you look on a map, I think that's what it's supposed to be.
Okay. So I'll replace Ohio. I'll replace Colorado with Ohio. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item number 2 is an award of contract. This comes to us from the Department of Public Works for the 2021 through 2022 right-of-way section street tree trimming emergency response and emergency removal program with a 2-year possible extension from budgeted funds. Good evening, Mr. Moore. Let's see. I'm trying to unmute Mr. Moore. Doug, can you unmute yourself? Or Casey, can you unmute him? There we go. All right. Good evening, Mr. Moore. Now it looks like he's muted again.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you.
Hallelujah.
Good evening, Mr. Moore.
Good evening, Council. It's Doug Moore with the Public Service Division. This seems to be how this evening is running. The department is asking Council to consider a tree trimming contract with Boone Development, who does business as Sod Solutions. It's a 2-year contract with a possible 2-year extension based on our wishes. Boone Development has been doing the tree trimming contract for us since 2013. And before that, they did a couple right-of-way removal program, tree removal programs, and a park tree removal program. We had a pre-bid meeting for this tree trim contract on September 9th. We had 2 contractors come to the meeting. The bid opening was done via Zoom on September 16th, and we had 2 bids. Sod Solutions bid was based on the section trimming for the sections that we had in the 2 years of the program, but we are asking Council to approve $350,000 a year because we cannot quantify numbers real well for our call-in tree trim requests that we get from residents, nor the emergency response when we have storms that roll through or trees that need to be taken down because of emergency situations. Based on the last several years, we feel that $350,000 is enough funds to do the work each year that we've done the past many years. Hi, Kathy. Sorry, Councilman White.
Madam Chair, may I ask a question?
Again. Yes, please.
So Doug, there was a gentleman who came to the regular meeting with a concern about trees that block stop signs and yield signs and that sort of thing that present some kind of a traffic hazard, and he was not real pleased with the fact that the homeowner, the obligation is on the homeowner to contact the Department of Public Works to get that tree trimmed. And so the question was raised during the meeting, does your department ever go out and proactively try to deal with these situations before a homeowner needs to call? So if you see, your staff sees issues, do you just take care of that on your own initiative?
Yeah, Councilman McCullough and I had a conversation about this last week because he raised a question from a friend of his. And the picture that came in was a sign that would have been visible had they gone about another 10 feet. We do take care of signs that obstruct, of trees that obstruct any sign that's in the right of way, whether it be a stop sign, a yield sign, any kind of informational sign, if they are on a Livonia maintained road. The county is responsible for main roads. If we have crews that are out seeing something, we've had our crews call and say, hey, there's a sign that's obstructed, come out and take care of it. We take complaints from residents for it, and we either send our crew out or we will send the contracted services crews out to take care of it. Sometimes it's private trees that do that. Sometimes in those instances, if we don't have time to do it, we ask ordinance to make contact with the resident to clear the sign. If not, we will go out and clear the sign. We do not leave it up to homeowners to take care of it. If we know about them, we will go out and take care of them. The issue with 320 miles of city roads and many, many, many signs is it's not something that is normally seen every day. We do depend on help for them. You know, if somebody sees something, we would appreciate the phone call to come in.
Thank you, Doug. I figured as much that your people were on top of it as well. So between the homeowners, the residents, and your staff, I think we can hopefully address most of those issues as they come up. So thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Did we have action offered? Councilmember Toy.
Thank you so much, Madam President. If I may, to Mr. Moore, Mr. I like this idea a lot of this 350,000. This is something new that you're trying, correct? We haven't allocated like this before, have we?
You know, I'm not, Councilwoman Toy, I'm not sure. I know in the past we tried to quantify these numbers better.
Sure.
And I think this year, based on the last few years, we've asked for a little bit more money because it seems like every year these requests come in. This year especially because a lot of people are home. They're looking out their windows, they're seeing issues. We've been able to do a lot more work. So the extra funds are helpful to do the work that we think we need to get done.
Well, I commend you for it because, as I said last meeting, you do a terrific job of picking up the debris that we all have from our yards, et cetera. Great experiences over here at Fine Farmington. And Madam President, if I may, I'd like to offer an approving and consent if you'd like, Madam Chair.
All right. Councilmember Toy has offered this for the consent, approving for consent agenda. Any objections? Seeing none, we'll place it on the consent agenda for the meeting of the regular meeting of Monday, October 19th. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Council. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. You too have a good evening. Thanks for all you do. Item number 3 is a request to approve a contract with TIVITY Health. This is not Trinity Health. That's not a misspelling. I thought at first it was. TIVITY Health. This comes from Parks and Recreation to provide silver sneaker memberships at the Kirksey Recreation Center for eligible senior participants. Good evening, Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Council President. Ted Davis, representing Parks and Recreation. The Parks and Recreation Commission is asking Council's approval to enter into an agreement with TIVITY Health. No, that's not a typo. They are the exclusive provider of the Silver Sneakers memberships. This has been a popular program. It was previously with the YMCA. It is in a number of local facilities in the area. But with the WISE closure, we kind of see the highlighted need for this, for our offering it in the future. This is a reimbursement program based upon your medical insurance provider. We are reimbursed $2.50 per visit with a cap of $20 per month for each individual. Again, based on their attendance at the facility. There's no out-of-pocket expense for us. There's no out-of-pocket expense for the Silver Sneakers participant. We're asking that council agree to this membership. Law has already reviewed this and it is acceptable to them. And I'd be happy to answer any questions council might have.
Thank you, council. Councilmember Jolly.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll just congratulate Ted Davis on always going the extra mile to make these relationships and these partnerships work. I'll offer an approving for the consent agenda. Thank you.
Any objections? Councilmember Toy.
Madam President, I was just wondering, what age for Silver Sneakers? Is it 32 or older? And furthermore, do you have to wear silver sneakers?
I think it's 38.
38. Okay.
I do think it's slightly older than 38. I believe it is 62. And thankfully, you do not have to wear silver sneakers.
Thank you, Mr. Davis, because we wanted to see you in yours. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Not quite there yet, but not quite.
Thank you. Ted, as long as we have you, could you maybe give us an update as to how things are going at the rec center with the reopening and the social distancing protocols and everything else and the reopening of the pools?
Sure. We're pretty much everything at the rec center is reopened. We have expanded the Fit Hub nicely into the former gymnastic space. If you haven't been there, the rec center looks significantly different than it did last time we were opened in March. Our lobby is effectively empty. Our Fit Hub is spread out. We have 10 feet of space between equipment. We have much lower capacity limits throughout the entire facility and overall in the facility. When you enter in, you're greeted with a touchless thermometer, actually, that scans your temperature and really is so much overkill on that piece of equipment. It's literally, shooting a bazooka to kill a mosquito. It's so technologically advanced that it's a bit, it's overkill, but we are still operating under strict capacity limits throughout the entire facility. I think right now we are 250 maximum at one given time. We have not approached that yet. We're still, to the best of my knowledge, we have not exceeded 400 people in a day visiting the rec center yet.
And what's the capacity, what's the building capacity under normal, if we ever get back to normal, or pre-COVID?
Yeah, our full fire marshal building capacity is 3,000, but a lot of that is not what we would call usable space. I mean, you're including, the viewing area for the lap pool. You're including the lobby areas. You're including every classroom. So again, our general members scanning in were significantly lower than that as a real usable capacity, but our total building capacity is 3,000.
And is it still only open to members?
We are still keeping that to members only at this time. We're continuing to look at it. I think all of us want to kind of see what happens when we get a cold snap here and what our numbers look like before we open this up to non-members of the facility. And it's simply because we don't want to have to go back and forth on something. Once we allow non-members in, we want to be able to maintain that. Don't want to have to go, well, this week we allowed non-members in, but we had too many people, so now we need to go back and go in a different direction. I don't think that's fair for anyone. So as much as it pains us all to not allow non-members in, I think that's probably our best decision at this point in time.
Thank you. And one other question, and I see Mr. Barr has a question too. Has anyone been detected to have had a fever and thus not allowed to enter?
To my knowledge, no, we have not had any participant come in and scan a fever and be denied entry.
All right, thank you. Vice President Barr.
Not a question, just a comment. I was just going to tell you, I know one really quick and simple way that you can increase that attendance by about 20 people a couple days a week.
I'm sure I know that way. I believe there's a person in city administration that might feel the exact same way. And myself, a couple knee surgeries and an Achilles ago, I would feel the exact same way.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else? I don't know that anyone who's offered a,
Madam President,
yes, Vice
I'll
President.
offer if we don't have one already, I'll offer an approving for consent. If there's no objection.
All right, so we have that offered the Silver Sneakers partnership with TIVITY Health offered for approval by Mr. Burr on the consent agenda.
I think, Madam President, I made a motion on that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm very sorry, Councilmember Jolly. I had your initials down there, but I couldn't remember if you actually offered it. Okay, well, Mr. Barr, thank you for the help. Mr. Jolly had already offered it, and I neglected to fully note that. Item number 4 is a request to become a certified government CLG through the Michigan State Historic Preservation Office, MSHPO. This comes to us from the Historic Preservation Commission to promote historic preservation and qualify the city of Livonia to apply to MSHPO grants for grants set aside exclusively for CLGs. Good evening, Mr. Davis again.
Thank you, Council President. That is a mouthful, to be sure. So I'll try my best to keep it simple here. This designation simply gives the city of Livonia access to additional grant funding. Is the simplest, easiest way to put this. It is, again, a designation outlined by the Michigan State Historical Preservation Office. It simply shows the city's commitment to preserving our historical facilities, which I think we have consistently done, and Greenmead is a fine example of that. This comes to us really from the Historic Preservation Commission is interested in this, and again, this does give us access to additional grant monies in promoting and preserving our historic properties. I'd be happy to answer any questions council might have on this.
I have one, but I'll yield to my colleagues first. Councilmember Toy.
Thank you, Madam President. If I may to Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis, there's no strings attached to this then, correct? That we have to meet certain criteria within certain months, years, or whatever to get this dollars?
Councilwoman Toy, there is no strings attached to this. This is simply confirming our already confirmed, and might I say, actually our ordinances already state this, that we are following best practices with regards to historic preservation.
Well, Madam President, if that be the case, I always like free money. So, you know, especially for the city. So I would make a motion for approval, please.
All right. We have a motion for approval on the consent agenda. Councilmember Toy.
Yes, please. That's great.
Consent agenda. Any discussion, any objections? All right, my question has been answered through Ms. Toy's question, so that will be on the consent agenda for the next regular meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. With that, we move on to item number 5. This is a waiver petition. It comes to us from the Planning Commission regarding petition 2020-07-02-06 submitted by Ed Buison, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that, to operate a limited service restaurant with drive-up window facilities, Biggby Coffee, at the Livonia Crossroads Retail Center located on the southeast corner of Middle Belt and Plymouth Road, 11502 Middle Belt Road in the northwest quarter of Section 36. Mr. Taormino.
Thank you, Madam President. Hopefully everyone can see the graphic or the aerial photograph of the site. This is the Livonia Crossroads shopping center located at the southeast corner of Middle Belt and Plymouth Roads. It's a multi-tenant shopping complex, about 23,000 square feet in overall size. The unit that is being considered this evening is here in the northeast corner of the shopping center complex. That would be a Biggby Coffee that would occupy roughly 1,700 square feet. It would serve as a limited service restaurant by definition. It would contain a total of 24 interior seats. There are no plans for any outdoor seating. But what the Planning Commission spent a considerable amount of time on researching with this petitioner and the owner of the shopping center was the inclusion of a drive-up window facility. Because this mall was not built to accommodate a drive-up facility, a number of changes had to be made, or will have to be made, in order to accommodate this aspect of the petition. So the way traffic would circulate around the site would be along the south and then along the east side of the building. This is effectively an alleyway that is behind the shopping complex, used mostly for deliveries as well as access to the trash enclosure. But with some modifications, the petitioner is hopeful to have enough space in order to accommodate the drive up as well as a bypass lane. There would be ample room for stacking of vehicles along the east side of the building. There would be an order window located generally here in the portion of the along the east elevation of the building, and then the pickup window would be located further north, right at the edge of the building where it exits to Plymouth Road. What's difficult to tell from this drawing is the complete rearrangement of the parking facility. If we go back to the aerial photograph, you'll see how the parking is arranged today. Really not conducive to facilitating traffic to the drive aisles to serve as the lanes to go to the drive-up facility. So what they would do is reorient all of the parking spaces, add landscape islands in several locations within the site. And then along the east side of the building, they would make a number of changes. The utility meters would be moved to inside the building. The doors that access along the back of these units would either be relocated, removed, or windows added so that there would minimize the chance of an interference with the cars that are driving along the back here. The dumpster area would be shifted slightly closer to the building. It would have a full enclosure, and the times of pickup would be limited so as not to interfere with the hours of operation of the other businesses, and in particular, the drive-up operation. A mirror would also be added, a couple of mirrors to facilitate visibility around this corner. As well, there would be directional signs, small directional signs placed at 3 locations within the parking lot in order to direct motorists to the drive-up lane. A fully detailed landscape plan was provided with the application that was reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission. Here's a cross-sectional view that gives you a better sense of what the distance is between the building where the drive-up would be, which is on the left-hand side here, and then the adjoining building to the east, which is roughly 24 feet away. And you can see the separation between the actual drive-through lane and the bypass lane. So this comes to you with an approving recommendation by the Planning Commission. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Council.
Madam President?
Yes, is that,
It's Councilman McCullough.
thank you. Just my screen was minimized, so I couldn't see. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. The first time I looked at this plan, and I know planning kind of did the same thing, it's the use of having a drive-through is kind of unique. And I'm all for unique development of sites. And I had to kind of take a double look. And I know that planning took a double look and had multiple study sessions. For anybody that's familiar with this property, I can remember the days that the family buggy used to be in there next to the Play It Again Sports, and just seeing the enhancements that are proposed on the site plan and some of the safety concerns that have been addressed through the drive-through. I think that this overall might help the site especially with, I know disc replays in there. I absolutely love Biggby Coffee. So after further review, I think that the overall site enhancements that are going along with the site plan would do some good things from an economic perspective for this site. So if there are no objections, I'd be happy to offer an approving resolution for consent.
Thank you, Councilmember McCullough. I have to go to see if, let me see. Councilmember Donovic, and then Council Vice President Barr.
Thank you, Madam President. Councilman McCullough took some of the points I was going to make. I frequent this shopping center often. In its current form, the unit that's being proposed for the Biggby Coffee is vacant. And if it's not vacant, there's multiple different businesses that come and go throughout there. I think Biggby Coffee would be a great idea right there. There used to be one across the street that was ran by a corporate office. This would be ran by a local resident, from my understanding, and this individual also owns one down the street. And I really believe there's something to be said about a local owner as opposed to a large corporate chain maybe. I think that the enhancement to the parking lot is a huge addition. I think that's a great win for the actual site itself and the customers. If you've been there recently, the parking lot is not functional the way that the parking pads are situated. It's very difficult, confusing to park in there. We're talking about adding a bunch of trees and it looks like some curbage to kind of separate the parking lots and islands. The only thing I want to know is when you're making that left turn, this may be a question for Mr. Tormina or the petitioner that I believe is with us. The building to the east, in its current form, it's open. There's no separation of the parking lot. Is there going to be any curb added along there to separate the two parking lots in the bottom right corner where you start to make that left turn? Or is that just going to be open and just add some yellow striped lines to kind of help guide people to the left as opposed to going straight into the parking lot to the southern part of the building? I believe it's a mattress warehouse right now, or a mattress store of some sort.
Yeah, Madam President, if I may.
Please, Mr. Chairman.
And I'll let the owner of the shopping center respond further. I see that he's raised his hands, Mike Kuba. But in this particular case, that stays open because there is a cross-access agreement between the two properties. And in fact, the garbage disposal truck relies on access from that property to get access to the trash enclosure. So I see Mike Huba, the owner, as well as Ed Buison, the franchisee, are both available to provide additional information on that subject.
Thank you, Mr. Tormina. I appreciate that answer. And one more question. The easternmost part of the building where the drive-through proposal would be, will that wall be repainted? Because I mean, looking at it, it's very old and doesn't look very good. So I'm hoping that that could be something that the petitioner takes into consideration for the beautification of the building, to make sure that they paint that outermost wall so that the drive-through patrons, have a better experience maybe. Thank you, Mr. Tormina and Council President.
And I'll let the owner respond to that inquiry, if I may.
Before I go to Mr. Barr, we'll go to the petitioners and the potential franchisee to answer these questions. Is it Hoba?
Yes. So my name is Mike Huba from Taylor Investment. Would you like me to state my address?
Please, if you're willing to do so.
Sure. 9018 Telegraph Road, Taylor, Michigan, 48180. So I guess Mr. Termino answered the question regarding the cross-access. That's necessary to remain open. And also we have an easement agreement so that the cross-access between both properties. And to answer the second question Rob had, absolutely, we are looking into either painting their brick wall or some sort of power wash that would bring out the natural color of the brick, because it is a solid core brick all the way through.
Okay, thank you. And Mr., is it, I'm sorry, Rasan
Yeah, that's very close. It's Buison.
Boyson?
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. And did you want to address any of the questions that were asked?
No, I believe so far, Mr. Tormia did an excellent job as always in explaining our plans. And then Mike, the building owner, did address the south wall. I mean, the whole goal is to beautify the property because that is really one of the highest profile intersections in the city. Just a little bit about myself. First, thank you, Councilman Donovan, for your service. We really appreciate the commitment you have to still serving the city, even when called to duty. So we appreciate that. For myself, I grew up in Livonia. I went through Livonia Public Schools. I chose Biggby, one, because it was a Michigan company to join as a franchisee. And when we looked for a location, my first inclination was to go back to the city that helped give me, who made me who I was, give me the success that I'm able to do. That's why we do have that first store on Ann Arbor Road in Newburgh. We've been there about 6 years now. My whole thing is to give back to the city, like I said. In the area we work with Livonia Public Schools, of course, Churchill High School, which is across the street, Schoolcraft, Medina University. I'm part of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm on the board of directors for the credit union, Community Alliance Credit Union. We worked with the Livonia Lions Club to help with St. Mary's food donation during the pandemic, help with Livonia, things like that. I mean, those are all things that I try to do to be an asset to the city because I believe every business, part of their mission and why their purpose should be to support the community that they exist in. So that's why, as there was a Biggby before in Plymouth and Middlebelt, it was run down. The owner didn't take care of the store, which is why it declined. I see this as an opportunity to be able to, one, provide a Biggby Coffee products and service in that side of the city, and also continue my work to support the city and organizations around on the east side of the city. As we have that first Biggby Coffee, it does not have a drive-through. As I'm sure most of you are aware, this pandemic has taken a toll on all small business, especially the food and retail. And we've really felt the pressure not being able to have a drive-through. So as we look at this second location inside Livonia, we made it a point to try to have a drive-through, and we really appreciate everybody with the planning staff and the planning commission working with us and giving us a recommendation to address the safety concerns so that we can operate a safe drive-through, in this property. So hopefully we can address the concerns if there's any, and hopefully move forward to in the process to be able to gain approval to open our store. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Buison, for that explanation, for your partnership with so many organizations in our community. And I see that Vice President Barr has his hand up. Vice President Barr?
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair to Mark. Mark, you talked about the dumpster moving. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit? You said it moved closer to the building, and can you just talk about the orientation of that and the access to that? Or if I'm asking you if it's more appropriate the petitioner, feel free to throw it that way, but to you.
The dumpster is going to remain in the same general location and orientation that it is today. The petitioner is just going to provide it in as much of a small of a footprint and as close to the building as possible in order to gain as much room along the back of the building. But the gates would face due east, as I indicated. The trucks would come in from along the adjacent property, pick up the dumpster from this location, and then more than likely exit back out going north to Plymouth Road. So that would be the general direction of traffic flow for and the location of that dumpster. But it's really in that same location as it exists today.
Okay, and then the other question I had, I'm sorry, were you still?
No, go ahead.
Okay, the other question I had was about the doors on the back there. Those doors, you said something about replacing some of those with windows. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, if you'll look closely at the notes here, they indicate that the doors would have windows. And in discussing this, there are some other options available. I think what the petitioner is going to do is work with the adjoining tenants to see what their preference might be to move the door in this particular. The adjacent unit to the south actually has 2 doors, and the thought would be is that they don't need 2 doors. They would remove at least one of those, or maybe both of them, and then optionally place that in a way that doesn't interfere at all. That is coming out, you can see here, in a southerly direction as opposed to an easterly direction. So those are the types of changes. And here's one where the existing door, since they don't have the option of really relocating it, providing a window so that the visibility is improved.
So the door will still be there. There'll just be a window on it.
In that case, that is
in that
correct.
case, okay. Yeah, I'll be honest. First and foremost, I love the proposal from the standpoint of I do think that this is a boon for that shopping center. We've seen this with a number of developments in the past where, a lot of times the other tenants in a shopping center like that are the ones that are meetings telling us, please approve this, because they want the extra eyeballs that it brings having a drive-through there. And so I absolutely think that this is a good thing for the economic vitality of that corner. And so I came into this wanting to see this work. As I studied it over the weekend, I was actually a pretty hard no on this. But the more I've studied it and reviewing the planning commission minutes, I got to applaud them again for all the work they did with this. And I have to say, I think all of my I think all my concerns actually have been met at this point. So I think this is a testament to a lot of hard work, not only from the planning commission's part, but also the petitioner and his willingness to work with the city to make this successful. And when Councilman Cullen offered this for consent, I was going to object just because this seems like a major enough decision with enough variables that it doesn't strike me as a consent type thing. But I'll be honest, at this point, I intend to support it, so I won't object to that. And kudos to everybody involved with this. I look forward to this hopefully being really successful. Thanks.
Thank you, Vice President Barr. Next, Councilman Jolly, please.
Thank you, Madam President. So I look at this and I am in agreement with the vast majority of things that have been shared here today by my colleagues, the sentiment of the petitioners, and of course, the counsel of Mr. Termina. My question is, has anybody at all reached out to the people who live on Elmira Street, the 3 yards in particular that back up to this? That's my first question, Mark. Can you tell me that?
Yeah, as a waiver petition, notices would have been sent to all of the property owners within 300 feet, which would have included the residents along Elmira that abut this property.
And we haven't received any kind of feedback or response, is that correct?
I'm not aware of any. I would have to double check the file, but I know that I cannot recall any participation from any of the residents, and I don't believe any correspondence was received on this item as well.
Okay, well, with that being the case, I think obviously this is a commercial property. It's been a commercial property forever. I'm concerned for these 3 homeowners. Essentially, they have an alley next to their house now that probably gets little to no traffic. And we're talking about potentially putting in a drive-through window that's going to have a pretty steady amount of traffic. For that reason alone, I'm going to object to the consent agenda. I'm not necessarily indicating that I will be against the ultimate approval of this, but I would like an opportunity to kind of reach out to those residents on Elmira there and see if they know what's going on and see if they are okay with that. I just think potentially you're going to cause, one of these houses here, the first house on Elmira off Middle Belt, that can't be 15 feet from where this drive-through is going to be, basically. So I'd like that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Jolly. Councilmember Donovan.
Thank you, Madam President. I would just also like to add that thank you to have the owner of the building and to have Ed on here as well. I love to see the partnership between the owner of the building and the tenant bringing in a business. As you talk about COVID and impacts of business, we have a vacant building right here, a vacant unit. And as we all know that there are a lot of vacant units and buildings up and down Plymouth Road, primarily situated in the Middle Belt to Inkster Road area. And I'd love to see a building that now has the potential to be revamped and come to life and have more customers there. I do understand Councilman Jolly's sentiment about the neighbors to the south being impacted by more vehicle traffic, and that is a concern, but there is a large cement wall there. This commercial property has been here for 20, 30 years, and I don't necessarily think cars are going to be doing, an excess speed down this little alleyway to get to the drive-through. But nonetheless, thank you to the petitioners for trying to revitalize a portion of a building that really needs it. And especially when we talk about the vacant building across the street with the Walgreens being vacant and next to the Office Depot and whatnot, I think this is a great opportunity for more future businesses to come this way and fill those vacant buildings. So thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilmember Donovan. Vice President Barr, did you wish to speak again?
I did. I wanted to address one thing, Councilman. And by the way, I think Councilman Jolly's wise to put this on regular for the reason he stated. I did receive one piece of correspondence from a resident that backs up to this. I don't know if we all got that or not. I was just looking through my email and trying to find it, and I wasn't finding it, so I don't remember the exact nature of his concern. But I just, Councilman Jolly asked the question, and just in case that resident's watching, I did receive it and I did consider it. I think though that, as Councilman Donovic said, with this being zoned commercial right up against residential, it follows our ordinance with a barrier there. And Plymouth Road is a major commercial corridor. It's not like this is out of character with that, and it's not changing the character of what anyone who bought a home in Elmira would have expected, especially when you look at the other types of businesses that are along here, and especially to the east. Just quickly scanning it, there's another fast food restaurant with its drive-through right up against the wall. There's a Zach's Car Wash over there. There's a number of businesses. So I just, well, I can understand some of those concerns, and I think it's right to put this on regular so residents have a chance to voice those concerns when we vote on this. I don't think this is inconsistent with the character of the area and what anybody would have expected when they bought a home there. So thanks.
Anyone else? I'd just like to, oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's okay.
I can't see, in this view, I can only see hands up. I can't see.
Sure. No, that's fine.
Oh, please, Councilmember Toy.
Thank you so much. All great points, but one that stands out is, as a petitioner will know, we have to be very cognizant of neighbors that are already there. And while we want to fill up these buildings and do all those wonderful things on Plymouth Road, and you are doing wonderful things by bringing this to us, I'd love to see some outdoor seating. I would love to also know if you've contacted any of those neighbors, since you're the petitioner putting it in, or you thought about it perhaps. And then lastly, I need to know about your speakers, because in past times, no offense, we've had some questions about the speakers, and maybe they're controlled better now, and they probably are, but I just wondered, or Mr. Taramina, maybe you can answer that, but I'd love to see some outdoor seating in here as well, and I'd like my answer to the neighbors as well. I think Jolly brings up a good point in that regard as well, so thank you so much, Madam President. And if I can get some of those questions answered, that would be awesome.
All right. I don't know if Mr. Buison, did I get it correct that time? Mr. Hubel would like,
Yes, very close. Thank you.
could you say it one more time?
Boyson, like
Boyson.
boy and son.
Got it.
Um,
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, we would definitely love outdoor seating, but there's not really any space. Maybe on the sidewalk, we could put a couple tables. I guess our focus is really just is the biggest portion of these, you know, be able to operate the drive-through. But we would love to look at doing an outdoor seating. From what we've heard from other, well, just Biggby's in general, outdoor seating is it's not something where it's used all the time. Especially, you know, if you're sitting outside, you're looking at Plymouth Road. There's a lot of traffic. It's not like peaceful. So I mean, that's something to look at. To address the question of the neighbors, no, I have not tried to reach out to the houses just south of it. I will say though, you know, I don't want to disturb anybody. You know, as it goes to, you know, to being for noise, I guess. You know, I used to live off of Plymouth and Schoolcraft, or Inkster and Schoolcraft, so I know well, you know, right off the way of the noise. And I went into that residence knowing that there's going to be noise because there's a freeway right there, or maybe there's a building next to us. You know, I guess with the drive-through speakers, I don't have a drive-through right now, so I couldn't comment very accurately as to how loud or how soft they are. I'm sure it's a lot better, considering they'll be brand new. The other thing, you know, there is that south concrete wall that's 6 feet high, and the order station is 100 feet from that wall. You'll see it's, well, maybe not anymore. It's on the plans. It's in the corner of the building, just south of the disc replay. You know, the other thing is our normal operation, we close by 9 p.m. So, you know, it wouldn't be going all into time to disturb people sleeping.
Thank you, Madam Chair. He's answered a lot of the questions. It's not that we're against it. It's just when we go out in the community, people ask us those types of things. And I just want to be ready to have those answers, sir.
Of course, no. And they're good points, and I appreciate that. I mean, we can try to do what we can to minimize the noise if you know that's something that you know comes up.
You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hubel, did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes. So I don't think we mentioned that we are repaving the alley, a fresh coat of asphalt. Currently, it's in, you know, dire condition. I'm not sure if you've driven the site or if anyone's driven the site. But, you know, to address the housing issue behind us, I think, you know, we're open to suggestions. You know, working with the Planning Commission, we've done so much already. You know, possibly maybe adding some speed bumps to avoid, you know, cars driving fast. You know, by the way, I do love outdoor seating as well if it's done properly. And if there's a way we can do it to make it look nice, I'm sure we would love to do it. I would love to do it. And I know Ed is just as ambitious as I am for opening his business here. But, you know, we also want a thriving business. Currently, we have that vacancy, and it's been vacant for a couple of years now. You know, and pretty much, you know, a shopping center is just only as good as its tenants. And when I met Ed, you know, I owe it to mostly him to making, you know, bringing it this far. although we are willing to, make it work far as improvements, enhancement of the building, and we're looking forward for the future as well. We're not just stopping here, but
Good.
go ahead.
I just said good.
Yeah, I mean, as as better the tenant base gets, the building will get better under our ownership.
Excuse me, Madam President?
Yes, I was just getting ready to recognize you, Mr. Jelly.
Sorry about that. I'll just state one more time, I'm not at all trying to put pressure or difficulty on the petitioners here in regards to this request. Ultimately, I think it could be a good thing. I just want to have the opportunity to reach out to the residents to make sure that we hear from them sooner as opposed to later. I've heard a lot of details, and I think we all have tonight. I just want this last opportunity to go out and get a little bit more information before we vote on it. I wish them well, and I understand why they're doing this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duffy. I just have, one is a question. So you mentioned that the reason that the former Biggby location that was adjacent to this, well, across Middle Belt, went closed was because it was poorly run and run down. There was also a Biggby at one time at the corner of Plymouth and Farmington, in what is, I'll call it the Las Palapas Plaza. And that also closed. And so I'm just curious. And when I saw those two closures, I don't think they happened in especially close time proximity. But I was wondering what was going on with Biggby, that you would have two locations, closed within at least a relatively short period of time.
Sure. Those are excellent questions. To address the first one, the one that was on Plymouth and Middlebelt, which is now a Smoothie King. For one, I know that that particular business owner was not involved in his business even before I came into the Biggby system 6 years ago. The other thing is, as any business owner, if they're not directly involved in their business, the business suffers. Customer service goes down, and as a result, customers avoid that location because of the lack of service. The other thing is, I know for a fact that tenant or that rent in that plaza for that particular Biggby location was in excess of $6,000 a month. That's a lot for any business to support, let alone a small business like a Biggby. So, that was one of the things I was very concerned about when I first had conversations with Mike of this property, what type of rent and, agreement he was looking for to be able to set up in there. And he recognizes, we're a small business as well. And, he really just wants a good tenant that's going to last. And something like a Biggby, he believes that it's a good choice. And, he's expressed some of the sentiments about myself. In regards to the Biggby on Plymouth and Farmington, I do know that that location closed, I want to say about 4 years ago.
Okay.
And that particular owner, he just wanted out. He was in the system almost 10 years, I believe. He was one of the first in Wayne County as well. And he just had enough and just decided to shut his door. It was nothing against the company or, business, financials, to my knowledge. He just had to move on, so he closed it.
Thank you. And that answers any concerns I have about there being any, systemic problems with the Biggby franchise or the product or the company. The second is, and I just wanted to make sure I heard something correctly, Mr. Taramina, because this is a waiver use, all the properties within 300 feet were sent a letter, right? Aren't those registered letters from the clerk's office? Is that correct, Mark?
Came from planning, yes. That's correct.
Sorry, planning, but they're registered letters, right?
They are mailed out through standard U.S. mail.
Okay, I couldn't remember. I know some things got registered, but, you know, to the point of the, and I appreciate, and we all are sensitive to the concerns of neighbors, even those who live adjacent to properties that have long been commercial, that all of the homeowners were notified by mail of this change. And I will recheck my email. I know Mr. Barr, Vice President Barr, said that he had a letter from a homeowner. I don't recall receiving anything, but I will go back and check. But I do think it's good to put this on the consent agenda. But all of the homeowners within 300 feet, those were certainly those first 3 houses, right, Mark? Sorry, you're muted. You just pulled a Kathleen.
Yeah, no, it would certainly touch all of those houses and beyond. And
Okay.
I just want to clarify that the notification was not for tonight's meeting.
Was what? I'm sorry.
It's not a requirement for this meeting, but it was for the planning commission.
For the planning commission, that's what I mean. And you didn't, and there was not objection, correct?
No objection that I am aware of. In fact, this map highlights in yellow the properties that were notified.
Okay, so it was a lot of those. It was many properties. Okay, all right. Yeah, no, I understood it was for the planning commission. I should have clarified my request.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure everyone understood that.
All right, thank you. So we have an approving offered for the regular agenda on October 19th. Any other discussion, questions, comments from council or the petitioners? All right, thank you. And I would just like, again, to say to Mr. Buison, did I get it correct that time?
You sure did. Thank you.
Okay. Again, I'd just like to reiterate how much your engagement with the community through your current location is appreciated. We all, you know, we all like all of our Livonia businesses, be they big businesses, be they small businesses, and they all contribute to a vibrant community, whether they are, you know, again, whether they're big box or not big box. But the ability of individual business owners to engage with the community in a special way, I think you are a great reflection of that. So thank you. And I'm sure that the folks on the east side of the city will be very happy, should this get approved, to have a similarly civic-minded and community-engaged business partner. So thank you.
Thank you for that. And I appreciate everyone's time and consideration of our petition. Have a good evening.
You too, and we'll see you on the 19th.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, with that, we move on to item number 6. This is a waiver petition, also comes to us from the Planning Commission regarding petition 2020-08-02-07, submitted by Matthew Petrosy, and I apologize if I mispronounced that, on behalf of Mountain Hope Memorial Garden Cemetery to construct a mausoleum in the cemetery located on the east side of Middle Belt Road between 6 Mile Road and Pickford Avenue, 17840 Middle Belt Road, in the southeast quarter of Section 12. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. This is a request for construction of a mausoleum at Mount Hope Memorial Gardens, which is a large cemetery located east of Middle Belt Road and north of 6 Mile Road. And while cemeteries are treated as a waiver use, and even though Mount Hope has been in existence for quite a long time, the additional crypts do constitute an expansion of that particular use, and is the reason why this is before you as a waiver use. In fact, it's the same process that was followed in 2006 when the city approved a 3,500 square foot mausoleum, generally located in this area that's highlighted yellow on the screen. Then in 2016, you approved, in addition to that same mausoleum, of about 2,100 square feet. So what the petitioner proposes this evening is a mausoleum that would be located just to the east of this existing structure, about 35 feet away. The new building would contain a combination of crypts and niches that would occupy a space of about 1,100 square feet overall, would have a height of about 21.5 feet. This is a side profile of the building. It's a combination of granite and brick and other types of masonry materials. these are obviously structures that are significantly engineered last centuries, if not longer. And the Planning Commission reviewed and approved this. The only issue that came up with the surrounding neighbor was the condition of the site located here in the southeast corner. Apparently, this area for years has been used to deposit spoils and other landscape materials. So it's rather unsightly, at least from the vantage point of the adjoining property to the east, which is also a cemetery. The caretaker or owner representing somebody from that did show up at the Planning Commission meeting, cited the concern here. And so the Planning Commission, you'll read in the resolution, has a stipulation whereby the petitioner would present to you this evening a plan and a timeline for restoring that area. And so they've provided a letter. I think that was the new data that you referenced at the onset of the meeting, Madam President, where the petitioner indicates that beginning this fall and carrying through to the spring, they would perform restoration measures. They would remove the soil and then revegetate the ground area with seed and mulch. And so that is the plan. I will note this, that while the letter indicates a general intent and timelines, it doesn't provide any real specificity in terms of timelines, which is what the Planning Commission had asked for. So I would just request, as part of any approving resolution, we place specific dates on compliance with these measures. Thank you.
Thank you. Council. All
Madam
right.
President, this is McCullough.
Yeah, now I can, Councilmember McCullough.
Thank you, Madam President. Through the chair to Mr. Tormina, is it, everything looks in line. Obviously, Planning Commission did their due diligence. Is there any chance just to wrap that area that needs to be restored into the soil erosion permit?
That's a great question. I'm going to defer to Mr. Zelinsik if he's listening. There he is.
The chair. Madam Chair?
Yes.
Go ahead. I'll go ahead and answer that if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. So if they want to, they can apply for a soil erosion control permit, and we can take a bond based on the acreage, and then also, typically the time frame of the soil erosion is a year, and then they can renew it. However, as Mark had stated, I think a time frame should be specified. Typically, usually you restore, in September by mid-October for vegetation turf establishment, or first thing in the spring, and typically by end of June, you should have turf establishment. So I would specify that maybe by late June, early July, it should be completed. But again, that's just my advice, and also require a soil erosion control permit for this and in the future if it continues to be an issue.
Thank you, Mr. Zelinsik.
You're welcome.
McCullough, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. Well, then, and I guess if I'm doing this correctly, I'd be happy to offer an approving resolution for consent.
You may. Mr. Jolly also has his hand up. So I just wanted to let you know before this is what's difficult about the Zoom format, especially when we're sharing the screen, but thankfully we can share the screen. So thank you, Mark, for doing that. So Mr. McCullough has offered and approving for consent, but Mr. Jolly would like to speak. So Jim?
Thank you, Madam President. These Zoom meetings are great technology, but I think they're wearing on all of us. So Mr. Termina, my questions aren't questions that I think you could answer necessarily, but is the petitioner here or is he not, or he or she?
Yeah, so the petitioner this evening is represented by Matt Petrosi, who is with us, and Mitch O'Connor as well.
Okay, so if they are listening, hopefully I can direct my questions to them. Cemeteries are obviously not for-profit businesses. I believe it's a state statute that cemeteries have to have trust funds or funds put aside in some regard to maintain the property. With these expansions of cemeteries, with the addition of mausoleums and the ability to put people's loved ones in them, I just want to make sure, are the trust funds or the funds set aside for this particular cemetery in good standing? Are they in good place? Can you comment on that, please?
I could probably correct a few of the comments. I'm not sure that I could speak as to the actual trust funds. I'm not in charge of those. I'm the director of operations for Midwest Memorial Group, who owns Mount Hope Cemetery. Yes, the trust funds are regulated by the state of Michigan. As far as I am aware, yes, the trust funds are accurate and good standing. However, not all cemeteries are not for profit. That's not correct. These are for-profit cemeteries, the ones that we have, Mount Hope specifically.
Okay.
The building project, however, is the fund that is in is what's called a pre-construction, where we have the ability to pre-sell the mausoleum project, and then you have, I believe it's 4 years from the first date of sale to produce the building.
Okay.
And I had sent that information into the first committee.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you correcting me that this is a for-profit business. I would like to put this on the regular agenda, not because I'm opposed to it, but I think, we have quite a bit of land in our city here that is taken up by cemetery space. And I think I've read quite a few articles actually that these cemeteries in other places have not been cared for or planned for the future properly, and ultimately became eyesores. Not that I expect that to happen here, but I would like some additional information in regards to the money that's being set aside for the long-term financial care and maintenance of this property. Can you get that for us?
What is it exactly that you would like to see?
I want to make sure that the monies being put aside that are required under the state statute are being put aside, so that when all the sites and all the plots are sold here, there's still money to take care of the maintenance of the property.
Sure.
Okay. You can send that to the council office. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilmember Toy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I may, to the petitioner, sir, how long have you owned this particular cemetery?
Park Lawn has owned this cemetery, I believe now for 3 or 4 years.
Oh, okay. So
Park Lawn is a large entity that is owns cemeteries throughout the United States and Canada.
yeah. Yeah, I know when I was in the legislature, I did a lot of work on pre-needs. So Councilman Jolly's remarks are very well intended. We had a lot of situations that weren't exactly good that we had to do some real laws on. So I'm familiar with some of that, unfortunately. So not saying you're like that or whatever, but it's helpful to have that information. This cemetery has a long history, which I won't go into. My father was a Livonia police officer. There was an investigation in here many, many years ago. Not to say you are part of it. I don't mean to say that. It's just we want to make sure, our T's and our I's are dotted and crossed. So I thank you for building in our community, but bear with us. We'd like to get some more information. Thank you so much.
All right. Anyone else? Okay, so that is, we have an approved resolution offered regular meeting agenda of October 19th. So we will see the petitioners on the 19th. And meanwhile, they've been asked to provide some information regarding the trust fund status and plans for the long-term care and ensuring the long-term care and maintenance.
Madam President?
Yes, council, no, you're not a councilman. Yet, Mr. Zelinski, yes.
I want to confirm, are you going to require soil erosion and also a time frame for establishment, turf establishment for that back property along the east edge as part of the approval for the regular meeting at the next time? I just want to confirm if soil erosion can be required and which we'll take a bond, and two, a date for establishment on that property itself. So I just want to confirm that. Thank you.
Councilmember McCullough.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to add the soil erosion bond or permit to this project, and I would also like to add that the turf be established by, say, August of 2021.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Zelinski, I think that answers the question.
Correct. I just assume at the end of August, though. We'll give them the end of August. Give some time because we don't know what the spring will bring or whatever. But I think at the end of August, that should give plenty of ample time for the developer to take care of that issue. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you for bringing that up. And it looks like Mr. Petrosi has his hand up to speak.
Yes, as a quick question, I have my soil erosion permit for this build project. Are we looking, just so that I understand, have to apply for another one? Or are we just going to modify the one I have?
Can I assume the chair and president?
Yes, please. Are you able to answer that? I'm sure you are.
Yeah, the one he got is for the building itself because he can disturb that area. Based on the information that the planning director brought tonight, there should be a separate one again as a information to the planning commission, a date, and a separate soil erosion control permit based on the acreage that's disturbed over there, so we can take a bond and be all in accordance.
All right. Thank you. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I guess so. So I would put together another soil erosion plan for that area and turn that in.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Based on the disturbed area, yes. The area that he's using for spoils should be putting silt fence up. He should be using silt fence in areas to correct that area until turf establishment has been taken care of. But yes, that's correct. Show us your area disturbance. We'll calculate the fees and work with you to get that permit issued.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember McCullough.
Madam President, I didn't turn the button off. I'm all good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I think we're all set. So thank you everyone for that and the clarifications and good questions. All right, and with that, we move to the new business portion of the agenda. Item number 7, this is a request for authorization to enter into a memorandum of understanding between the City of Livonia and GrowthWorks Incorporated. This comes to us from the Department of Law to provide improved services for the Youth Assistance Diversion Program, providing savings to the city, funding to be provided by the State of Michigan, MDHHS, Child Care Fund, and Wayne County Millage Funds administered by the Conference of Western Wayne. Mr. Bernier.
Good evening. As the council is aware, with the recent reorganization of the Community Resource Department, we were taking a look at different ways to save money and to give better services to our constituents and to our residents. One of the programs we looked at was our youth assistance program. I had a conversation with the chief from Canton Township Police Department, who uses the exact same program, and they had nothing but rave reviews about going through this program. The thought process was that we wanted to go through a program with GrowthWorks. The court partners with GrowthWorks for a lot of the people that we deal with there, and it's like a natural outreach. What we're asking for is a memorandum of understanding between the City of Livonia and GrowthWorks, so we can have our youth who we're trying to divert away from the criminal justice system into some sort of a program. So hopefully we don't see them again on that. So we're asking for a letter of understanding between the City of Livonia and GrowthWorks. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Council.
Madam President?
Yes, Councilmember Jelly.
I'll offer an approving for the consent agenda. This seems like a no-brainer. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Council Member Toy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to add to that by saying that if Dale Gannon is still there, he does an excellent job and has much success out of this program. And for what I remember, the city has had it for many, many years as well, if I'm not mistaken. And they serve us very well, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Member Donovic.
Thank you, Madam President. I would just like to reiterate my support for our police department. Like Councilwoman Toy said, we've already had a program like this available to our youth for many years now, but you know, helping youth that have made a bad choice, made a mistake, avoid the justice system and take advantage of the opportunities of a second chance is a huge thing. And I love to see our police department and the administration being forward thinking, and the law department trying to work with our youth and make them productive members of society for their future. So this is an awesome idea, and I'm looking forward to the success that this program brings to the youth of Livonia. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Donovic. Anyone else? Otherwise, this goes on the consent agenda for the regular meeting of October 19th. And this time we go back to the audience. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to communicate with the council on any item not on this evening's agenda, now is an opportunity to do so. Seeing none, at 9:41, we are adjourned. Good night, Livonia. Thank you, LivoniaTV. Thank you, Information Technology Services, and thank you to all who joined us tonight via Zoom or phone. Good night.